Hey everyone, hope you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, commodities, ETFs that I follow. I'm going to give you my financial opinions as we go through all this. If you need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. I just released a platinum midweek update on the website, looking at individual companies, looking at potential opportunities in the market. I think there's a lot of opportunities right now. After going through all those, there's a bunch of different sectors that look pretty good that are starting to put in sort of bottoming patterns and starting to come out of downtrends and patterns of falling wedges and stuff. So let's dive in. I'll give you my financial opinions and see what's going on in the markets today. So we've got the DXY here. We do have a little bit of a bounce higher in the DXY up 0.3%. That's pretty normal next to such a large selling pressure day. But the question that I have is, are we going to see further downside in dollar and in yields? Or are we going to actually get a bounce? To me, this looks like we are going further to the downside, the way that I see it. What that means is that we're going to see tailwinds behind precious metals and some of these investments that used to have strong headwinds. So again, we'll monitor where yields and the dollar are going, and we'll see if that actually plays out the way that I think it might. And we'll continue to watch all of these different commodity sectors and see how they're reacting to yields if they were to drop further. So today, I know we were up today, but we've got basically the strong selling pressure move yesterday. It's kind of like a bunch of air in a balloon. You kind of poke a big hole in it, and it's kind of just letting the air out. Call that inflation. Some of that inflation is coming out of the system, and yields generally come out and go lower when that inflation comes out of the system. If it actually is slowing the inflation, I know the CPI was lower, but that's what's been reported, so to speak. But this has broken to the downside of support. It broke out here. This is your retest, and then generally you head lower. That's what we're looking at, and that's what I'm going to stick with in the short term until I see otherwise. The 10-year yield, it's up today, but again, we've been tracking lower, and the momentum's to the downside in the short term. You've got a little bit of a support level there that kind of broke out, and now we're doing kind of a retest. I'm looking to see if this is going to move to the downside. That's my opinions of where we could potentially go. I'm looking for a lower yield. And that's going across the board. Even with the 30-year, you can draw kind of a trend line through there. We broke through that, coming back up. Are we going to get kind of a spill to the downside for a little while? Not forever, but for a little while. And we could see crude oil also spill to the downside for a little while too in the short term. So that's kind of my reasoning of what could potentially pull back yields in the short term. TYX TNX ratio, it was slightly lower today. So that means that the 10-year yield went up more than the 30-year yield, which means the curve is basically staying inverted. It's just moving sideways. It's not really a tailwind behind gold, but gold took it like a champ, which makes me think that maybe lower yields and maybe this curve uninverts to some degree in the future. Bond prices getting that return move a little bit today, down 1.4%. Very interested to see how big this bounce will be if we do that and just roll over, or if we're going to actually punch through and move up some substantial amount. Yet to be determined. Don't know yet. And it doesn't look like we've broken anything major here. We're still kind of in a downtrend, so I'll just hold my judgment until we see what kind of plays out here next few weeks. And then the 2-year, 10-year yield, slightly lower today, but we're still inverted quite a bit, just slightly lower. So gold moving sideways, taking that yield kind of in stride. We're above the big, basically flag pattern. So this is a big flag pattern here. We're above it. And that's generally a very good thing because you bust out. Sometimes you bust out. It took a lot of buying pressure to basically bust out the top of this, and then I think we're going to end up going higher. This is a On a monthly candlestick basis, this is a bloody nose. It generally works its way higher if it closes the month at that price, roughly speaking. Silver looking good. We've broken through short-term resistance to the upside. I still think this looks fantastic. But again, it could take longer. We could go all the way out, and maybe we still have the yield curve invert further. If we break 25, we get up like around here, that's a really good break. So we haven't broken yet. Might take some further moving sideways before that breakout occurs, but it looks good. There's nothing bad here. We are still squeezing up in a very, very, very big pattern. I could even draw this all the way back here, somewhere like that, where we've kind of used this, and it's a big squeezing pattern here, guys. I mean, all of the 2000s all the way to 2011 is a big squeeze. Platinum also looking good. We're up $8 an ounce, and we're back against that resistance line. We'll see what happens here. We punched through or head lower. Palladium heading a little bit higher, up $11 an ounce. To me, this looks like a false breakdown where we could actually move on higher in the future, potentially, because we kind of squeezed up here into the corner, did a false little breakdown, and we'll see if we can get a bounce here. XEU to gold ratio slightly lower, but that was off of a big move to the upside. So again, it looks like we could continue higher with a little bloody nose on the ratio. So that's gold, silver mining companies versus gold. We are still below all of these resistance lines, the big resistance line, and we haven't broken that yet. We are also below the resistance line coming through here as well. So we are on the weaker side of where we want to be, but we'll see if it stays there and if the market conditions shift into our favor. CRV index, I know oil was down a little bit, so just a small down day today. Still looks good to go higher though. Still looks good from the CRV index at least. Looks good to continue on up. Whoa. We've got the CRV to S&P 500. Here we are. A little bit of a downward move there with yields pooping out. It does look like it's slowing down. That's why we got the candlesticks contracting to some degree. And it's got to gather itself up before heading higher. A little bit of downside momentum in the short term, but I still think that the overall trend, the big long-term trend, will be a move higher, not lower. And we could easily move down like that or something like that, whatever the path is, if we get a short-term slowdown in the market or something. GDX down slightly. Gold was up slightly, and that is a bloody nose. It still looks like we could go higher, but we do have strong resistance above us. It's that blue resistance line going across there that we still are underneath. And GDXJ still underneath resistance. Same with SILJ, still underneath resistance on the short term. We're at a very low point though. This general location, always in history, would have been a very good time to be looking at potential buy points. So I think it looks really good for all these. Kind of interested to see if we were to do a date range. At bottom, it's 1,553 days. If I were to move this to here, this is 1,339 days. So I bet you it's pretty close in terms of the timeline it took from bottom to potential bottom. Crude oil down 2.24%. This does look like we could see further downside selling pressure. If I were to throw it kind of looks to me like this is almost like a little continuation pattern where we could go a little bit lower to the downside in the short term for crude oil. It's an inverted flag pattern, perhaps. Maybe a little bit more further downside to go. We've got momentum coming down. This just doesn't look like a bottoming pattern yet. So maybe a little bit further downside. You got TTF gas moving sideways. Nice little kind of bearish engulfing. Maybe we got a little bit of downside move in the short term, still above support for TTF gas. Everything looking okay short term wise. Nat gas and Henry Hub, just it's up 1.8%, still above support. Everything's still holding together just fine. XOP, yeah, you know me. A little bit of a reversal candlestick here with the wick at the top. Makes me think that we could head a little bit lower in the short term. Maybe we come back to this support level. If it does, that's another really good buying opportunity in XOP if it does. OIH also selling off a little bit. To me, it looks like we could head a little bit lower in the short term before heading higher. So we're consolidating in oil, consolidating in nat gas in the short term, and we are consolidating in the ETFs that are oil and nat gas related. The Sprott Physical Uranium Trust slightly lower. I know we're trying to get up into all-time resistance, and again, this is just a small little down day that looks perfect to continue higher. They're just two little red down days. I call them bloody noses. So that looks good to continue higher. A little bit more selling pressure on URA, even though we got a little wick at the bottom. So a little bit of selling pressure, maybe a little bit of a downward move. We'll see. What we're basically running into is resistance, and maybe we create kind of like a cup and handle pattern like that, which is possible with the big lead in. So maybe we get like a couple of handle pattern there, and we'll see if that occurs that way. I'll just leave it there. URNM, also, I think we're going to get like a cup and handle here, guys. We came up. You know what? You could draw it like this too, where you get almost like a cup and handle that way. And maybe we punch through. Maybe we have another loop. We'll see. We'll see. And I'll leave that there. So nice little cup and handle there. URNJ, again, we just got resistance up here. Every time we hit our head on it, come back. Hit our head, come back. And we come back here, we come back here. Maybe we come back like that. And we just step right up into that resistance zone and overpower it with time and bullishness, right? Overpower it with bullishness. TAN up a little bit today. This one seems to be highly sensitive to interest rates. But we're up against that resistance line again. And we'll see if we can punch through it for TAN. COPX up 1.6% up against resistance again. We'll see if we can punch through that resistance and get back within the channel here. This is generally a good spot to be looking, is down here, right where it's at. And there's a lot of good setups in the diversified mining companies right now. So I think eventually this is going to work its way up in a big way. Lithium up 1% today, and it looks like we're punching through that downtrend line. We might get a retest, and we'll see if we can get a little bit of a bounce. REMX also punching through resistance, and maybe we can get a bounce, retest move, and move on up, because it looks like we could get a little bit of selling pressure in the short term. That's why a wick is at the top here in the short term. We're starting to punch through these downtrend lines. S&P 500, just a small down day, nothing really to worry about, not a reversal candlestick. NASDAQ, same thing, small down day, not a reversal candlestick. Probably just going to continue to work its way on up. We've got the regional bank ETF up 1.4%. Looks strong, guys. Looks strong, like it wants to bottom and continue higher. Weird as that is. Emerging markets looking real strong, looking like it popped higher, 0.84%. We're above that resistance level. We could very easily come back and do a retest. It's possible. XHB down a little bit. Again, this still looks really good for a move to the upside for the home builders ETF. I know it goes counter to everyone that is watching the housing market on YouTube. They think it's all going to just be one big crash. What I'm telling you is they're probably wrong. That's my guess. Moo up 1%. This looks fantastic for a move higher. I know you guys that part of the website, I talked about fertilizer companies and stuff. So this looks good. Looks good, like it's trying to put in the bottom here. We've got copper looking good, up 0.8%. Are we going to break here, guys? What's going on? I'm getting mixed signals on copper all day. Big selling pressure day to punch us through to the downside, but it's just gathering itself so easily here. It's just gathering itself up like it wants to break to the upside, and hopefully we get that big move to the upside. If we get that big move, I'm going to be ultra bullish on all these diversified mining companies, guys. So that looks good. Iron ore down a little bit today, but again, this is momentum to the upside. Looks fantastic. for iron ore. We've got nickel. I'm not going to go over nickel. That chart's jacked up. We've got aluminum still moving sideways between support and resistance. We've got Baltic Dry Index slightly higher. Again, I think that's going to keep going to the upside. Maybe we put in a consolidation pattern or something like that. We've got Newcastle coal up 1%. I think this is going to do real well over the long term. Great entry point, in my opinion, to be looking for some of these coal companies. Bitcoin's looking fantastic. I think that's going to continue higher. Very strong, very bullish price action. Look at the candlestick today. That's a pretty strong candlestick. Big bullish engulfing. That looks really good, and Ethereum looks good to continue higher. I would be getting very bullish on these. Basically, a breakout, a retest. I would have bought it on this day here on the retest or today, and I think we're gonna go up. So that's what I've got for today, guys. So give me a thumb up, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the website if you guys like. I know you guys like these daily technical analysis update videos. I went over a lot of individual companies during our midweek update today. I think a lot looks pretty good. And if you're a long-term investor, that's where I live, man. I live in the long-term stuff. I try accumulating cheap companies as they bottom or fall into the corners of falling wedges, and their commodity prices start to strengthen. I get real bullish on them. So we have a platinum question and answer session at 5 p.m. on Sunday coming up. I'd love to see you guys there. And that's what I've got for today, guys. So hopefully you all have a good day. We'll catch you next time. This is Finding Value.